1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Spoken Music Podcast. Today we're doing Peace Sells But Who's Buying and Rust in Peace by Megadeth in a versus battle. Let's begin. Alright, cheers, buddy.
Yes, sir. Here we are.
Yes. Alright, welcome to Spoken Music Podcast. Today we're doing Megadeth.
Yep.
Doing two Megadeth albums. So we got Peace Sells But Who's Buying. I'm the one who's going to be holding down the fort on that.
And I'll be representing Rust in Peace.
Mm-hmm. Probably our two favorite Megadeth albums.
I'd say so. They're some of their cornerstone works. Really good stuff.
So if anybody doesn't know who Megadeth is most of the time just Dave Mustaine, and then he always has a bunch of different people
Rotating
coming on.
musicians, everyone he works with is top of line too, though. They're all really good.
But on these albums, so Peace Sells is the 1986 album of
Yes.
theirs, and then Rust in Peace is the 90 one.
Yeah, 1990.
I'll say who the members are on each album because they're different on each
And
album.
I'm pretty sure I know who the members are on mine. I don't have
So do
yours
I.
memorized.
So on Peace Sells But Who's Buying, the personnel is Dave Mustaine, so he's the guitarist and the lead vocalist. Dave Ellefson, he's the bass guitar player. He was actually the bass player for the whole band
Up until very recently.
Very recently, yeah, when he's kicked out. And then on the other guitars, it's Chris Poland on this album, and Gar Samuelson on drums.
Yeah.
So that's on Peace Sells.
And then by the time Rust in Peace happens, I think Megadeth has kind of their most iconic lineup, in my opinion.
My favorite.
By that time, Dave had brought on Nick Menza on drums,
Yep.
who's an absolute beast, and Marty Friedman on guitar.
Yeah, and Dave Ellefson is still
on
the band,
bass.
So yeah, he's still on the band at this point.
And what a power group that is.
Yeah. So yeah, and they lasted until I think Euthanasia's their last album.
Yeah,
So that's like three albums with that lineup of, and then otherwise every other album has been like a bunch of different people.
Pretty rotating.
Yeah. So, but if you didn't know, Dave Mustaine was originally in Metallica when Metallica first formed. But due to his alcohol abuse and substance abuse back in the day, they kicked him out of the band of Metallica. And then Metallica had started and became huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, Megadeth is almost just as good, if not some of their work is a little bit more throughout their career. They have even more good stuff, I guess.
I agree.
They don't have a Saint Anger.
and that was part of Dave's kind of mission statement with making Megadeth. At least back in the '80s when he did start it, his goal is to make a band that rocked even harder than Metallica. Essentially, he wanted to show them what real metal was in a sense. And over the years, I know he's lightened up to the rivalry, and they do shows together now, and they seem quite okay. But yeah, during the '80s and '90s, it was a big feud, and Megadeth's goal was to rock the hardest.
Yeah, exactly. Which they kind of did, honestly. Especially on these two albums that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they were one of the cornerstones of the Big Four of metal.
Yeah.
And one of the other cool little pieces of Megadeth trivia I learned is at one point when they were auditioning, they got one of the guys from Slayer in there. Did you know that? Slayer, what's his name? Carrie,
Oh, I forget.
Yeah, one of the guys from Slayer was very briefly in Megadeth.
Really?
Yeah, before Slayer.
And it was early on in Megadeth's career?
Yeah, very early. Another
Wow.
crazy, shocking one is one of the guitarists that auditioned very early on in Megadeth is also Dimebag Darrell.
Dimebag did?
Dimebag Darrell auditioned for Megadeth.
How did I not know that? That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely crazy stuff. And then, I mean, he went on to, do Pantera, and he made it just fine on his own.
He was in Pantera by that point.
I suppose he would have been.
In the 80s albums, like the glam
Yeah, I
days.
guess so. Either way, he was one of the people auditioned, so
Cool.
would have been crazy.
Okay, well, from there, I guess, what should we start with? Should we just start with Peace Sells?
Yeah, let's go through Peace Sells.
Okay, we'll just go track by track of each album, but we'll do it a little quicker than usual. We'll do it a little, because it's
We have a
two
lot more to
albums.
cover.
Yeah, so we'll only make a couple points on certain songs and how we feel about them. So, Peace Sells is probably my favorite Megadeth album. That and probably Euthanasia, and then Rest in Peace, obviously. But that's why I kind of decided to hold the fort down for this song, or this album, just because it's probably my personal favorite, and Rest in Peace is yours.
Absolutely.
So, the album starts off with the song Wake Up Dead. Great intro to an album.
Fantastic way to open an album.
Yeah, it's got some of the best, riffs already, off the bat. Especially from their debut. Have you ever heard their debut? Killing It?
Yeah, I'm a business, and business is good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very raw album. Some good songs, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. But I feel like Peace Sells is just the perfect follow-up to that, and just this is really where they settled in.
Well, they also had So Far, So Good, So What.
That's after this one.
I'm pretty sure that was first.
No, that's after this one.
Oh, no way.
That's after
crazy.
this one. So there's one in between Rust in Peace as well.
I see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Wake Up Dead. It's basically just a bunch of riffs and some silly story about a guy cheating on his girlfriend and trying to sneak into his house.
Not get caught.
Not get caught, yeah, or he's gonna wake up dead. Yeah, just great riffs, great solos, just a great intro to an album.
80s flair, 100%.
Yeah, very thrash metal. And then it goes into The Conjuring, the second track. Honestly, one of my favorite tracks off the album, probably. I think that this probably has my favorite section of a Megadeth song. Is in the bridge breakdown, where it does the really cool guitar riff that I played in the intro of this video.
100%. Good job.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best moments of Megadeth. Honestly, is that part in particular. But yeah, I think that the very pounding sound of the song is really awesome, and not much else to say about it from there.
I agree. I think it's an underrated track on the album. For
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. And then it goes into Peace Sells. So this is one of their most popular tracks, but
100%.
for good reason. It's one of their best. I've known this song forever. This is probably the first Megadeth song I heard.
I think it's the first one I heard too.
Yeah, Vice City.
Yeah, anyone's a fan of the Grand Theft Auto games, Vice City.
Has Peace Sells in it. And yeah, this song's amazing. Honestly, listening to this album again, and just being fresh to it again, it's kind of it was building on me even more that this song is incredible.
100%.
The vocal melodies and stuff are all really well written. I feel like this is their first perfect song
I
to an
agree.
extent. Yeah,
I agree.
its popularity is for good reason.
One of my favorite parts about Peace Sells is Dave's lyricism in that song. I think he hits the nail on the head between this bitter, angry lyrics that he writes, kind of almost a sense of humor in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping it very political the way he does, but it's not so political that it's a drag either. It's it's perfect. I love Dave's lyrics in Peace Sells so much.
Yeah, me too. And the whole ending part, the whole ending section of the song is just one of the best build-ups.
Agree.
Yeah. And then from Peace Sells, it goes into Devil's Island. Honestly, listening to this used to be one of my lesser favorites of the album, but listening to it this past week, it's honestly becoming one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
I think that some of the riffs on it are just super rad compared to the rest of the album too. They all fit well with the album and still keeping up with the flow and stuff. I think the lyrics are really great for this song too.
I have to listen to them.
I think the meaning of the song is this guy's on death row, but instead of being he's afraid of, it's kind of like Hallowed Be Thy Name a little bit. But this guy's on death row, and instead of being sent to death, he gets sent by God or something to an island of the devil.
Okay.
Instead, yeah. So it's pretty cool. He has to live out his life there or something like that. I think that the guitar solo and the drumming on this song is just insane too. Everything. Oh, crazy song. And then after Devil's Island, it goes into Good Morning, Black Friday. It's like the two songs kind of combined. So for Good Morning, the beginning of that song, like it's just an instrumental a little bit with just some really cool acoustic riffs, and it jumps into some harder riffs, like into a build-up. Honestly, I love Good Morning, the Good Morning section of the song. I think that's like there's some really cool riffs in there, and I loved like Dave's scream in the song. But then it goes into Black Friday, and I think the song is just absolute madness, but I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, I think it's just some of the riffs just don't necessarily click with me. I think they're cool. I think it's still keeping up that thrash metal vibe, but I do think that like it's a little bit of a step down in my opinion.
That's surprising. I was actually gonna say like Good Morning Black Friday is actually one of my highlights personally on that album. I think it's one of the coolest sections, and I've always thought of it as one song too.
Yeah. I've always thought of it as one song as well, but technically they are parted, so like
yeah.
I do prefer the Good Morning section, because I think that the Good Morning section of the song, the very beginning, and the couple riffs that are in there, I think that is one of the biggest highlights of the album.
I do agree.
Yeah, but Black Friday, the part of that, I think it's just a lot of speed metal, I guess.
I love it.
I think it's good, but I just don't. I think it's one of my lesser favorites off the album. Either way, and then it goes into the song Bad Omen. This is another one that's just a little bit. It's okay to me. More of a filler track in my opinion. I think it's got some great bass, some of the best bass on the album.
Absolutely.
Lots of run and bass, and I think the main riff's wicked.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, we might be opposites even just in how we view Peace Sells, because Bad Omen's another one of my favorites off of that one. That's crazy.
Barely a verse, but you're gonna like this one more.
I might, but yeah, no, Bad Omen's friggin' sick, and Dave's got some, like, pretty cool vocal melodies on that one, too.
Yeah, he does. I think that the solo's really cool, too. Sometimes the solo sounds so tight that it sounds like it's computer generated, and I think that's crazy. That just shows like they're so tight with their playing of solos. I think it's probably Mustaine.
Yeah, I believe so.
But yeah, otherwise I don't have much to say about the song. I just think it's an alright song. Not one of my highlights.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah. And then it goes into I Ain't Superstitious. And that's actually a cover of a blues artist named Willie Dixon.
Oh, I see.
That song's a cover. Of course, I think there's a couple different lyrics that Dave threw in there because he's saying like chicken shit and stuff. There's some goofy lyrics in it. But I think that the intro of the song has a really catchy hook. The do-do-do-do-do-do. I think that's really nice. I do think that some of the soloing licks that are in there are actually really cool. I like Mustaine's vocals. All in all, a decent song. It's very short too, so it's just a little thrown in there.
Yeah, I never looked too deeply into it. I didn't know that was actually a cover, but I mean, it makes sense.
It does, yeah. It sounds a lot different, but it still has those nice thrash metal riffs that he just tossed in there. But
in general, Megadeth's really good at that when they cover a song, making it kind of their own in a sense.
Yeah. All of not all of Hidden Treasures, but like Paranoid of Hidden Treasures and stuff.
Yeah, covers Alice Cooper too, right? Or is that in a different one that he covers Cooper?
No More Mr. Nice Guy?
Yeah.
That is Hidden Treasures, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
You might be right.
But yeah, his covers are fantastic. I love any Megadeth cover.
And then for My Ain't Superstitious, it goes into the final track on the album. That's My Last Words. I think that My Last Words is this is definitely a contender for my favorite song off the album. But I think it might be Megadeth's best closer of an album.
No way.
I think that it's better than Rest in Peace Polaris, and we'll get to that song in a minute.
Sure.
But like, I think that this is like a better closer. I think that the riffs on this song are extremely insane. I think that some of the lyrics are some of my personal favorite lyrics off the album. I think that the vocal melodies just click properly in this song. The guitar solos are crazy. Those galloping riffs through the song are just like, and the drumming is everything about it really, it's just like, I think that this is a really powerful closer, and it has a kind of a darker tone to it, but it's kind of reminds me of Call of Cthulhu a little bit by Megadeth, which we were just talking about that earlier.
Metallica.
Yeah, Metallica, sorry. But we were just talking about that earlier. Apparently Mustaine wrote some of Call of Cthulhu by Metallica, so like,
yeah, if you check out, and I was going to mention that when we get into it, but in Hangar 18, that there's a section in that where it's almost doing the exact same thing as a section in Call of Cthulhu, except they're just playing it a little bit faster in Hangar 18.
Okay, we'll have to get to that because I did not realize that.
Yeah, when I was doing my research, I learned that, and I thought that was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, my first time hearing that Mustaine did Call of Cthulhu was just from you today.
Yeah, personally, I don't think he wrote the entire whole song, but it seems basically confirmed that Metallica used sections of his work in some of their songs.
But Metallica also used sections of his work on their first album too. So
100%. Well, he was literally there for,
basically
the whole thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But yeah, I think My Last Words is a really strong closer to the album.
I do agree with that. It feels right. It feels good.
It does. And yeah, that's Peace Sells. I think it's a great album all the way through. So
I do agree. I think Peace Sells is a great album, and it's one of the best pieces of work they made.
Yeah, there's a couple tracks that are like not as standout tracks for me, and like a couple that just don't click with me as much, but I still think that it's a good listen all the way through and worthwhile thrash metal album. And then flip the page and we go, so we skip an album, so Far So Good So What was after Peace Sells, and then after that comes Rust in Peace.
Yeah, and the turn of the decade into the 90s.
Yeah.
And Rust in Peace was kind of a defining album for what metal was going to start to be in the 90s.
Yeah. So I guess I'll let you lead this album. So I'll just tell you what tracks come and then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say I don't have that written down or memorized, but
yeah.
Sorry.
But I do have something cool to say. The producer of this album, do you know who it is?
I did, but I forget now.
It's Mike Klink.
Okay.
You know who that is?
No, you have to enlighten me.
He produced all the Guns N' Roses albums, besides Chinese Democracy.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and I actually do have a fun little tangent about that I learned. I do.
Do you know what else that Mike Klink produced? He
No.
produced all the Guns N' Roses album. He also, I think, almost right after Rust in Peace, around right after Rust in Peace, or no, after Spaghetti Incident by Guns N' Roses, he produced Dig by Arm of the Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, so one of my favorite, like my
Close
favorite
to
band,
home.
yeah, my favorite band of all time is Arm of the Earth, and this guy produced their debut album, plus this album, plus all of Guns N' Roses stuff before Chinese Democracy.
Very, very accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's get into Rust in Peace.
Yeah,
So
I'll get to my tangent when we get to the song.
Yeah.
I'll let you know about it.
So the first song starts with Holy War's The Punishment Due.
One of the best thrash metal songs of all time, hands down.
Mhm.
Fantastic song, great riffage, great solos by both Dave and by Marty, and an interesting story. One of Megadeth's most compelling stories for how they wrote a song. Have you ever heard the story of how Holy Wars came about?
I don't think so.
It's probably not how you think. Megadeth was playing a show in Ireland, and so people were scalping like T-shirts in a sense, like they were making shirts and like selling them, but it wasn't through the band or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was talking about the cause, and Dave Mustaine didn't really understand like what the cause was at the time, but he was just kind of taking a piss at the whole thing. So he goes up on stage and he's all like, "Oh yeah, like give Ireland back to the Irish, fighting for the Irish or whatever." And he accidentally created a shockwave, and people literally rioted and were destroying the stadium. And Megadeth had to leave. They literally got escorted out of the place in like bulletproof cars because it was that bad.
Yeah.
Dave Mustaine had no idea what was going on until David Ellefson talked to him later about it. And apparently, Ireland was like on the brink of insane civil conflict because of the Irish Catholics basically almost having a civil war with the Protestants or whatever, the Republican Protestants or whatever.
Okay.
Over, control of Ireland. It was like a literal holy war that Ireland was going through that Dave accidentally fucked with, and he didn't even mean to. So that was his inspiration to write that. And
wow.
He has a lyric in particular in the song where he talks about that, where he says, "My masquerade, no more disgrace, take back this foolish naive stand."
Yeah.
Because he's basically just trying to say he takes back what he said because he didn't understand the situation. All while also commentating on the fact that it's kind of crazy how these people are literally going to fucking kill each other over their religion.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely one of their best songs, and a cool little tangent I heard about it.
That's crazy. I didn't know about that. It's pretty cool. I do think that, I think that the solo on this song by Mustaine is insane. I think that the Friedman solos are great too, but Mustaine's solo, when it comes in with that feedback, that it's so good.
Yeah, and debatably Marty Friedman's best solo too. I think a few people would say his acoustic solo. Yeah,
That's Friedman?
Yep, that's Friedman. And apparently that's part of what his like iconic like flair to the band was, is he has like a lot of experience like with music like in Hungarian scales and traditional like Hungarian
like
Middle Eastern stuff.
Eastern, yeah.
So like that's where that came from, and yeah, that's a Friedman solo right there.
That's pretty cool. Wow, you did your research.
I did.
I think that this song's probably their best intro of an album too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's much better than Wake Up Dead.
Grabs you so much.
Yeah. And then it goes into Hangar 18.
Hangar 18, that's another one of their most popular, well-known songs. And Hangar 18 actually was heavily influenced by their newly brought on drummer, Nick Menza.
Yeah, he wrote the lyrics, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was, I guess at the time, what they'd call an Area 51 nut.
Yeah.
He was hardcore into aliens and stuff like that.
Me too.
And I'm pretty sure that that's also part of what brought about their iconic album cover.
Yeah, this song's about the Roswell crash in the 40s.
Yeah, and it's got, I feel bad, I almost forgot his name, Vic, right? The Skeleton Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got him hovering over an alien, and he's got a bunch of, like, politicians, like, world leaders behind him.
Oh, and the album cover, yeah, exactly. We don't have the CDs or anything, we don't actually own the physical copies, but yeah, I guess we should have talked about the album covers too. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're both incredible.
Incredible, yeah. Both of them have Vic Rattlebones on them. He's the mascot of Megadeth. I keep mixing up Metallica and Megadeth for some reason.
Dave's gonna hate you.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. But yeah, both covers are amazing. I don't know who did the artwork for them, but
oh, I did look up his name. I don't know if it was the same for Peace Sells as Rust in Peace, but I know the guy who did Rust in Peace. He's huge.
Yeah.
He did album artwork for like a ton of the thrash metal bands. Like they call him like the thrash metal artist.
Oh.
And I forget what movie it was, but he even drew up some inspiration, some designs for some people from a movie. I might get this wrong. It might have been like Hellboy or something like that.
Okay.
But
like
yeah.
The originals? The original Hellboy movies or the new one?
Yeah,
Okay,
the originals. Yeah, he did some like the concept art for some of the characters, I believe.
Right.
I might be wrong about that. I forget exactly the movie, but yeah, point is the guy is like massive in the industry, and yeah, he did artwork for a ton of thrash metal guys apparently.
That's pretty cool. Wow. Huh. But yeah, I guess with this song, it just like, honestly, this might be my favorite Megadeth song.
Understandable.
Yeah, definitely understandable. Yeah, of course it is one of their most popular, but it also is one of their best. Like, the dueling solos at the end of the song.
Oh yeah.
So cool. Like, between Friedman and Mustaine. Amazing. That was how you knew that this band's lineup was working out, was that, like...
Amazing chemistry.
Amazing chemistry, and, like, you know, Friedman and Mustaine just have, like, a really good... they're both excellent guitar players. So they really fit together, you know. Their solos are both insane.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole song.
Which another thing is crazy is that Friedman had been in line actually for a long time to have a place in Megadeth, and Dave kept turning him away. It was like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even give him a chance to like listen to his solo stuff. Dave literally saw what Marty Friedman looked like and thought that the guy was a poser. Do you believe that? He thought he was a poser. And eventually they were like starting to kind of run kind of tight on options. And one of like Dave's agents is like, you really gotta listen to Friedman's solo CD, which apparently had been hanging around in their studio forever. And Dave finally listened to it and was like, okay, like we gotta work with this guy.
I think I have heard that story before. Yeah, that's cool. I think I heard that back in high school.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, insane stuff. So that almost never even happened.
Yeah.
Never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, exactly. All right. That's crazy. Damn. I guess that's all for Hangar 18.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, so after Hangar 18, it goes into Take No Prisoners.
Now, Take No Prisoners is one of my favorite thrash metal songs of all time. The first time I ever heard that song, I actually got goosebumps. It's one of the few songs that has been able to give me goosebumps.
Me too, like, especially from first listen. Like,
yeah.
I can still get goosebumps from songs that I haven't heard in a while or something like that, but the first time I heard that, what you played earlier today,
what I tried to play.
I was like, wow, blown away at just how fast that is.
Oh yeah, mind-blowingly fast. That's
Yeah.
part of like what really defined like thrash is Dave's ability to play so quick.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he uses some very like interesting motifs. Like in thrash is where you really see those chromatic climbs and descents, and that's just a very quick little chromatic descent, and it's just so badass.
Yeah, literally. I think that the drumming on this song is insane too. This
So
is
tight.
This is a Nick highlight of this album.
So tight.
Yeah, especially in the intro of the song. Yeah, just a completely like devastating drum sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's cool. The whole band gets involved. This is like the most notable track on there where you can really hear the other guys doing the backing vocals for Dave.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool way to do it too. That is that all of them singing?
I don't believe it's all of them, but I know it's at least two of them. If you ever watch any live shows they were doing at that time, I'm pretty sure you could see both Elfson and Friedman at their mics doing those parts. I don't know if Nick was also singing. I couldn't tell.
Yeah. He's doing all the intense drums. So.
Yeah, he's going off. The guy needs a second to breathe, I suppose.
But yeah, another great song off the album. Oh, and the tapping little bass section, and then just jumps right back into it. So cool.
Yeah, one of the tightest tracks, you're right. Not only
Yeah.
drum, just everything very, very tight.
Yeah, exactly. And then it goes into Five Magics.
Now, Five Magics is one of the songs that I slept on. Well, once it became kind of my mission to really analyze this album, I realized that Five Magics is a sleeper track. It is so good, and it's one of the songs that I actually have my little tangent about because you did remind me. I did remember that producer had also worked with Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Because this is another track that has a Friedman solo.
Mm-hmm.
And, actually, I don't know if it was the solo part. I actually think it was the rhythm section he was doing because it was in a messed up time signature and so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
He kept flubbing about in the studio with it, and he was having a tough time with it. And, that producer, came up to him and he was like, "This is Slash's pick. Use this." And Freeman got it right away with Slash's pick.
Really?
Yeah, he like drew the magic from Slash's pick.
That's pretty cool.
And I thought that was an absolutely insane thing. So yeah, if you listen to the Five Magics, it's got a little bit of Slash in there technically.
No kidding. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, technically, Mike Klink, the producer, was about to work on Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yeah, like
He might have been in the middle of it.
I think he was. That's what I'm saying. Because
Yeah.
clearly Slash was in that same studio
Mm-hmm.
working on stuff at the same time. So it's very cool stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. That's super cool. Huh, where'd you hear about that?
Just scouring through the internet. I forget exactly which source I found that from, but because I've been looking all day at everything. But I believe that to be true, and if it's not, sorry, but I believe that that's true.
Yeah, I would like to believe it. Yeah, I think that the song has really nice layered guitars. I think that
100%.
just like again, it's really tight on this song. Oh, and at the end, I think it's probably Mustaine playing the solo at the end of the song, but the guitar sounds almost like a harmonica at points.
I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
It is.
I've never heard a
it's
guitar
insane.
sound like that. Like, it's such a nice, clean, like heavy sound, but it sounds almost like a harmonica. It's like a piercing harmonica. It's pretty cool. And then from Five Magic, it goes into Poison is the Cure.
Yeah, Poison is the Cure. That has some interesting stuff going on in it.
It does.
I really like the bass work on that song in particular. But I do think that this is the most kind of just I hate using the term filler track, but it's one of the not highlights of the record in my opinion. Dave does some interesting vocal stuff in this song too. He goes really deep and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it breaks the tone of the record, but I feel like it deviates the furthest from what everything else on the track is doing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Aside from some pretty mean bass work and still some like really cool riffs and stuff, I just don't think it punches as hard as most of the other tracks on the record.
No, I kind of agree. I don't really have much to say about the song. I have two things written down here for it. I think that it's a fun riff, and I think that it's a cool bass line.
Yeah, right?
Other than that, it's just not one of my favorites, but that's okay.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, somebody probably disagrees.
Yeah, sorry.
And then after Poison is the Cure, it goes into Lucretia.
Yeah, no, that song is also underrated.
Very.
Another song that grabs you. It's got the laugh at the beginning. It kind of reminds me of like Black Sabbath in a sense how it does that.
The coughing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, and the guitar riff it opens with is absolutely insane. That's one of my favorite riffs on the whole album.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a highlight riff intro of this album. Is that riff in particular?
Very
melodic.
And Dave's singing is pretty great on this one. He goes right back into like singing in a way that I really prefer, with his growls and just the intensity of it.
Yeah.
And the solos are great.
Yep.
I love the solos. Honestly, there's nothing kind of crazy going on, like, I guess lyrically, in my opinion. I'm actually still not even entirely sure I know what the song's about.
I'm not sure either.
But it sounds mean as hell, so thumbs up for that.
I can't remember what it was about. I did read about that. But yeah, I do think that this is some of the best solos on the album.
Yeah.
And I think that the bass, especially all the way through the song, is like a highlight of the bass. He's always doing something. It's super cool. But yeah, Lucretia is a really good song. Another one of my favorites, honestly. And then it goes into Tornado of Souls.
Tornado of Souls is another one of my favorite tracks on the record, and again, it's one of their most successful tracks off this album.
Yeah, which I didn't know for a long time.
Yeah, Tornado of Souls is huge, and this is a song where the lyrics stand out more in particular to me. I think that Tornado of Souls has some of my favorite lyrics that Dave has ever wrote.
Yeah.
And again, it's got really awesome guitar work and really awesome drum work. The groove is really nice, and you really get to feel kind of like the pain of where Dave was in. I feel like when you hear this song, it kind of it encapsulates this idea of like a toxic relationship, in my opinion.
It does, yeah. It's a big shift from the rest of the song's concepts.
Yeah, I agree. Conceptually, that's probably their biggest deviation.
Hey, it's our mascot. It's our Vic Rattlebones.
Oscar the cat.
Yeah. He's a bit of a grouch sometimes, too.
He is.
But yeah, I do think that this is another one of... Oh, sorry, buddy. Banned with the law. Yeah, I think that this song has another great solo, too. 100%. All the solos in this album, like, it sounds like I must be repeating myself because, like...
Oh, me too.
Just every song is so tight and, like, great solos. Like, that's what makes this album so good, you know?
Yeah, well, it can't be understated. Both
No.
Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman, like, they are some of the best guitar players of all time. And when they team up, especially in this album, it shows.
Yeah, I wish Friedman stayed along for longer.
I wish too, but yeah, it can't be understated. They're both legends.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely insane.
And then after Tornado of Souls, it goes into Dawn Patrol.
Dawn Patrol is it's okay. I like it for the groove of it, but again, it's there's nothing too crazy going on in my opinion. think that it fits aesthetically, and it's a good song to kind of thrash to.
Honestly, I like this song quite a bit. I think that like the drums are really thick and really punchy. There's not much guitar, but the guitar inflections that are in there, the little like turned up volume guitars, are very high, like far in the background, but I think they do fit. I think that the bass is great for this song. I think that the bass line is one of the best bass lines of the album.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Like you said, the groove is really cool. And like his vocal performance is weird, but good.
Yeah, it is. It's another one of his more out there ones.
Yeah. But yeah, and then from there it goes into Rest in Peace, Polaris.
Yeah, which is, in my opinion, also a fantastic ending to a record.
Yeah, this is the closing track.
It grabs you really hard with a drum intro.
It's the best drumming on the album.
Which you don't see often, and the drum intro is really sick. And then you get into just some really fast riffs. Again, that's one of the riffs that I chose, was the opening guitar riff.
Yeah.
Because it's just so tight, especially the way that they play it. And it just sounds so great.
Yeah.
And lyrically, it's really cool. It gives this feeling of just like power. It's just all power. Such a strong song. Like a statement to the band on their ability to thrash.
Yeah, literally. I like that.
And I also like how it kind of has that almost like fake out ending at that one point where it all kind of gets sucked up and then it comes right back into it kind of again.
That's actually where the song transitions, because this is sort of like Good Morning Black Friday, where it's two parts of the song. So technically it's Rest in Peace, and then that part is Polaris.
Yeah.
I love that too. I think that the chorus is insane on this song.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. The drums are pounding through the whole song. It's so loud.
And the way Dave carries the vocal melody during that is perfect.
Yeah. I think that this is also a really great album ender, closer too. It's very difficult to choose between which I prefer, but I do think that Peace Sells has a stronger ending than Rest in Peace. I think that Rest in Peace has a lot of cool elements, but I just think that My Last Words off of Peace Sells is just a better thematic closer, you know, and I don't know.
I can respect it, but I will say that I love Rest in Peace, Polaris. I think that that's such a great way to end a record, and you know, it's even technically the title track of the record in a sense.
It is, yeah.
And yeah, I think it closes up all the themes really nicely. It brings it all back together, and yeah, like I said, so tight, so powerful. But the same can also be said for My Last Words too.
Yeah, exactly.
Very powerful.
But yeah, that's it. Those are the two albums, track by track.
Quick rundown of two of the greatest thrash records of all time.
Yeah, literally, they are two of the best thrash albums of all time. It's pretty crazy to think where they went after this. Like, right after Rest in Peace is Countdown to Extinction.
Yeah.
And that's where they took a similar turn that Metallica did with the Black Album, where they tried to gain that commercial success with a little bit more popular songs.
I kind of disagree with that.
I think that is what they went for.
I could see it, but in a sense, I think that Countdown is still like really thrashy and really hard. I think the only notable thing is like, I don't think they have any long tracks on that. I think they might be going maybe for more radio play. But
that's what I mean, yeah.
I guess so,
yeah.
In that sense. But I think the actual like tonality of how heavy the tracks are, I think it keeps up.
Yeah.
I don't think that you start seeing more lighter stuff until Euthanasia.
That is true. I do. Yeah, Euthanasia is also pretty poppy.
And then from there it bleeds into just more light stuff being on the records.
Yeah, I think Cryptic Writings is after that. I'm actually like pretty like familiar with some of Megadeth's career. Like I know Peace Sells and then Rest in Peace and then Countdown, which I'm not the biggest fan of Countdown to Extinction.
And I love Countdown.
Yeah, I love Euthanasia though. Euthanasia is another peak for me.
And I'm pretty good with Euthanasia, but I know Countdown better.
Yeah, and you know Cryptic Writings, right?
I know probably about as well as you.
Okay, I don't know it that well.
Yeah, same.
Oh, okay, perfect.
We're both probably know medium.
And then there's Risk, which I don't know. And then there's like The World Needs a Hero. There's a couple songs off that are really good. Disconnect.
Yeah, Megadeth has been busy. They've been putting out records like almost completely steadily with only a few longer breaks.
Yeah. Have you ever heard The System Has Failed?
Yeah.
2003?
Yeah.
That's like, technically that's the same year as Saint Anger, and that's how you know that Megadeth was not following the same path as Metallica, because it is not a Saint Anger.
Definitely.
The System Has Failed, if anything, is like not necessarily a return to form, but it is certainly
Very
a good
hard,
form,
very
yeah.
heavy.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Agreed.
One of my favorites again.
And that's why I'd like to say I think that Megadeth was successful in their goal of kind of rocking harder than Metallica. At the very least, they rocked longer than Metallica, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, he's kind of freaking out, so I guess we should probably wrap this up. But, come here, buddy. Good boy. So, I guess in conclusion, so this is a little bit strange. I do think that, like, Rust in Peace has grown on me a lot this past week.
I'd say Peace Cells has grown on me, too.
Really?
100%. I think we're both in agreement saying that they're both fantastic records.
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So we won't have as much necessarily to debate on, I suppose, this time around.
Not too much, besides just, like, the fact that, like, I do prefer the ending of Peace Cells. I think that actually some of the riffs on Peace Cells hit even harder than Rust in Peace. I think that Rust in Peace is a lot faster.
100%.
Yeah, a lot more thrashy and just very speedy.
And that's, I guess, what I would like to say. Like, as far as my points onto particularly why I prefer Rust in Peace is just, simply the fact that they'd been a band a little bit longer and they had, I think brought on the perfect members for the team, and they've just grown.
Yeah.
They've got to that point by Rust in Peace where they're playing so incredibly tight, so fast. The structures of the song are so well put together. The production quality is noticeably higher this time around. Everything about it, it's just refining their work to a point of basically perfection, in my opinion. And I think that that's all that Rust in Peace really has over Peace Cells, is it's just got time and experience and a little bit more knowledge in the direction they're going in.
And I fully agree. I do think that he's going nuts. I do agree. I do think that Peace Cells is a lot more raw. Another thing too is that I've been listening to the remastered version of Peace Cells. You probably have too.
I've listened to both.
Okay, yeah, because the original mix of
very
the album,
raw.
Very raw, yeah, and it's kind of shitty a little bit. I actually don't like it as much.
Yeah, well, especially the drums.
The drums are really, like, tinny on that.
Yeah.
Just not as hard hitting. But if you listen to the remaster, I actually think that they got
great.
it. Yeah, I think they got it perfect. That was how... That is how those riffs deserve to be heard.
Yeah, I think that must have been the vision.
Yeah,
from the
I hope
start.
so. But if it's not, then hey, more power to the original. Whoever does prefer the sound of the original, I just think the drums are more powerful on the...
I agree.
On the new mix from like 2004 or something. But yeah, other than that, honestly, it seems like we're gonna have to do a debate on Countdown and Euthanasia, and even have more of a battle to give, I guess.
Absolutely. If you want to see our fingers fall off and do another versus battle of Megadeth,
Please, no.
Well, let us know in the comments down below.
The riffs get easier though.
They
riffs
do
get easier.
Please.
We did the hardest ones probably.
I was about to say, please don't roast us. We are unfortunately not Dave Mustaine. But we gave it our best effort, and this has been a really fun episode of Versus, and just covering one of my personal favorite bands. I absolutely love Megadeth, and any chance they get to talk about them is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I guess from here we'll just go to what we're talking about next week. So next week we plan on doing Revolver by the Beatles. The album's a bit relevant right now because it just had a release last night, actually, of the 2022 remix, and it's got some really cool things about it that I want to get to talking about. And Sage here hasn't even heard a Beatles album before.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm out of the trend. I definitely have an appreciation for the Beatles, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a stranger. I even do know some deep tracks, but
Absolutely.
I've never taken the time to actually sit down and listen to a full Beatles album, and I suppose now I have incentive to do that for next week's episode.
Yeah.
And I'm looking very forward to diving in deep on one of the most iconic bands of all time.
Yeah, honestly, me too, because I'm a huge fan of the Beatles, and this new remix is just, yet again, after many times this has happened, where this band just gains another huge relevancy in my life, and right now is another one of those times. So I think it's a perfect time to be listening to. So next week we're gonna be doing Revolver by the Beatles. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah. Otherwise, cheers, buddy.
Yes, cheers, and like, comment, subscribe. Let us know anything you want us to talk about or review. See you next time on Spoken Music Podcast.
Cheers.